Sekiro is a work of art. This is my take on the whole debate of like, is Sekiro too hard? Is it too easy? Is it player based? Does it actually love its player base? There's been a lot of videos on that. I can do one video about explaining why people lack empathy and sympathy, can't understand the game, right, and so on. I would have to do that. Maybe I would do that. But I think this is more important because people don't talk about it, I feel, enough. That is the art aspect, right? So I read this comment yesterday on Polygon, and it really felt like an insult to From Software. And actually, I would say insult to every game and gamers all over the world. No, but like it's an insult to the art of making video games, right? So video games, as any other entertainment, is a part of an art craft, right? You do something, you write some narrative, you write a story. That is art, right? But not just that, just the game experience, right? You're designing the experience, the hardship of Sekiro and so on, is a part of that experience the player is supposed to feel when they play the game, and that is the art. So this comment I felt was the most insulting comment, and that's why I think it's the dumbest. The whole, this some aspect I can see people are, maybe that makes some sense, but this is by my opinion, is by far the dumbest you can have about Sekiro. So you get a comment here then, and it's from Gigabachi, written on Polygon yesterday. And so basically Gigabachi here is comparing Sekiro to like a washing machine or a vacuum cleaner, right? Something like that. And it's all about this like, well, if I buy this item, right, it's supposed to have this functionality, and Sekiro doesn't, so I want my money back. That, my man, is stupid. It's really, really stupid in so many aspects. But first of all, right, I always want to say that Sekiro, of course, being an amazing game, and I think it really is a good work of art, it's not just Sekiro, right? All games are art. So, for example, Devil May Cry, right? That's a great art, badass actions, cool cutscenes, and it gives you that feeling of doing SS rank combos. A great, art, right? That's art too. Dragon Quest, right? Upside down. Dragon Quest 11, full decoding mode. I would argue it's even harder than Sekiro. Also work of art. For example, that experience beating the game of full decoding mode, it's an experience someone has designed, right? It's really, really hardship and so on, right? It's all another work of art. Basically, all games, of course, as any movie and so on, is work of art. That's why this comment up here, I feel, is just insanely crazy, in my opinion. It's by far, then, the most misguided you can have about Sekiro, I think, about any game, right? Because it's saying that, no, this is the game, right? You bought this game. You should be supposed to experience the game, right? Because if you compare it to any other media, let's for example say you watch Bambi, right? Classic Disney movie, and then you're like, well, Bambi was really sad. It was fun in the beginning, then it got really sad. I want my money back. Yeah, that would be kinda weird, right? I think a lot of people would be like, wait, what? You can get the money back? You can get the money? You watched the movie, you didn't like one scene out of like the whole movie? No, you get your money back. That's not a thing, right? The thing is would be if someone said, I watched Bambi, or I bought Bambi, and it stopped working, right? The videotape, whatever, VHS tape, DVD, so on, right? It stopped working halfway through. Yeah, the functionality it's promising you is to be able to watch the movie. That the movie is actually good or not, or do you like it? Do you think it's too sad, too good, not funny enough, and so on, right? All of that kind of subjective reasoning can't be said about the game, right? You can't say that Sekiro is, you want your money back, or like Sekiro is faulty because it's not, because you bought it as you bought, a functional item, right? For example, if I look at this microphone here, I have here, right? This is my microphone, I talk here. This has a pure functionality standpoint. I speak to it, it captures my voice, right? Hopefully it doesn't capture like my neighbor and so on, right? It has a kind of setting to, it's like 3 microphones in it. It's a pure functionality. Yeah, I mean, it might be a little art here, it's a little like brand and so on, but generally, it's a functional item, object functionality, right? If you look at my katana behind me here, it's a mix, right? A katana is a mix between art and functionality, right? Because obviously, katana has the functionality of being able to defend myself. That's obviously the reason why I have it. But also, right, if you open the katana, right, and you look at the katana, it has that like wave pattern and so on, right? It has like an art design, right, on the katana, right? That is obviously, of course, you have like you have the hammer on, you have the back and so on, right? So it's both is an artwork. The actual blade is an artwork, right? As any good katana should be. And then a proper katana, right, should be an artwork. But it also has a functionality of being able to use as, of course, a weapon of choice, right? I mean, so it's a boat, right? It's both like that. But a game is more like a book, right, or something. It's pure art. The game isn't really promising you any functionality, except being able to actually run the game, right? If someone wrote a comment saying, you know, I bought Sekiro, and I get to Shane Ogre, and the boss isn't hard, but each time I play the boss, the game crashes every time. The actual game crashes, so I can't beat the boss because the game crashed. It's like, yeah. That is similar to this thing. But saying that they should add easy mode because I bought the game and I expected it to be easy mode, that's insane. I'm sorry, but that is just stupid. For example, do we have? It's like watching a movie and the main character dies at the end, and you're like, but I wanted him to be happy and have like children, and it's kind of like that, right? Saying I want my money back because I expected the main character to live ever happy after. It is such a weird and really insulting commentary to any kind of game design thing or just game development in general. But for example, from my own personal perspective, my latest game I made, so whatever, shell shilling, but my latest game, to argument here, I have written the lore about the characters, the backstories, right, why they fight, why they have the power and so on. And isn't that art? Isn't that like I write a book? I'm not saying I'm equally good as any good author, but I'm saying that I'm a kind of an author, right, if I write it in that sense. Since from that alone, Sekiro has a storyline, right? Sekiro has, you know, different kind of endings and so on. Isn't that art? If you compare it to standard art, like books, literature, isn't that the same thing? Or it's a different kind of media, but it's obviously the same thing, right? In general sense at least. And for example, then, a reasonable argument on my own game, or my own writing, would be that I have one of the heroes in the game, her mother gets killed before the game starts, like, you know, the prologue, and that motivates her to, you know, build better stuff, get revenge and so on, right? Yada, yada, yada. If you want to complain and say, that's pretty lazy, man. You wrote a typical, you know, the killed parent, revenge plot, scream, trope. But yeah, that's a reasonable complaint, saying that the actual art is bad. That is reasonable complaint. If you're gonna sit there and say that Sekiro's art is bad, you know, I don't like the drawings, I don't like the boss fights, or whatever. I was just talking about, of course, the storyline, but generally, like, you know, no, I don't like the aesthetics, or you don't like this boss fight. Like, for example, I want to spoil the game too much, but like the long arm you're off guy, way too easy in my opinion. That, in my opinion, is actually bad art, so to speak, because the art is supposed to be a hard game, and when you play the boss, it's just way too easy. So I'm like, that's, in my opinion, is bad art. So if you want to complain on that, it makes sense. If you look at my game and say, well, you know, your writing is bad because it's like your writing is lazy and so on, and I would be like, well, I have to write like, you know, freaking like 64 characters in like 64 days, so I didn't have that much time, so like trope. That mean my defense over it. But I mean, in general sense, I would say, man, that's a fair, you know, that is a fair critique actually. And if you then say, I don't want to buy your game because I don't like the narration, I think the story is horrible, that would be, you know, that would be fair in that sense. But if you buy the game, you like the gameplay, whatever, and then you say, I want to buy my money back because I didn't like, you know, an orphanage character. I don't like that. I don't like seeing parents getting killed in the storyline. It's too sad for me. I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? That would be really strange, right? That would be extremely strange. And it would be absurdly strange if anyone did it ever else with anything else, right? So if you did something like, because for me it reminds me of the whole South Park episode, right, where they really hate Mel Gibson's Special of the Christ, right? So they go and complain on him, and you know, we want our money back. Yeah, like, we want our money back. He goes crazy, right? And it's all Mad Max thing and so on. It fits in this level of insanity, like a South Park episode where someone's like, I bought a game, but I didn't like the storytelling in the game, so I went back there, like, you give me my money back. That's how I feel this argument. That's how I think it's the dumbest argument. And that is from the standalone of a games or art, just as anything else, right? And what I mean with that is, of course, very, very, you know, layered, several layers, right? Because a game is art, is art, right? The game is art, right? As the aesthetics of the game, the bosses, how they look and so on, all that is like literal art, right? It's like typical, this is art, right? Usually called the concept artist, or, you know, the art department, the graphic artist, the modelers, whatever, right? Animation, so like literal called artists at the studios do the games. But also someone doing the game design, right? Someone designing this boss battle and say, this freaking boss battle is gonna be hard. that is my design on this boss battle. That's also art, right? You have designed an experience of someone. It's exactly as I'm doing a movie to you, and then you're saying, oh, the movie was too horrible. Like, they were horrible in, a horrible story for the characters. It was too gruesome. You want your money back, no one takes you serious. And it's very unfortunate. I feel a little way that how games can still be called like that, right? That's also why I mean it's so insulting. That's why I find it an incredibly insulting way to argue about easy mode in Sekiro, because they're arguing from a standpoint where it's like, Sekiro is equal to, the microphone, right? Or some kind of other functionality. So I paid you money, so you have to make the game like I wanted to make it. And that's not what games are. That is not what games are. Games are equally to a movie, a TV show, something like that, right? It's artwork. And I think it's so funny too, because it's like, let's say you watch a TV show, right? Like a drama, thriller TV show, and you watch the first 3 episodes. Then you jump 7 episodes and you watch episode 10. And you say, oh, episode 10 is pretty good, but why is this guy a traitor? I don't get that. And so I was like, but you skipped all the episodes between here. They clearly explain, he's a traitor. And you were like, but I don't want to watch the episode. I don't have time for that. So I'm giving this episode a bad review, because it's like, he shouldn't be a traitor. But they explain here in episode 5. I don't know, yeah. That would be really, really stupid. That would be basically really retarded, right? Because you would skip part of the storyline and say, but whatever, yeah. So that doesn't make any sense. It's obviously the writer of that TV show has written it from episode 1 to the last episode, right? Maybe the same writer, but they've written the storyline to be told in this sequence, right? And if you skip parts of it, you can't complain saying that I don't feel it's motivated these characters' actions are. Yes, they are. You just miss that part, right? In a similar way, a game is amazing art, right? And that's kind of my second massive point, I would say. When you play Sekiro, Sekiro is a hard game, right? It's a hardship game, and I don't want to spoil the storyline, but let's just spoil the general feel of it, I would say. It's all about, you die a lot, and not just die a lot as a player, but actually in the game. The in-game storyline is like, well, you die a lot, and let's try to, mend that whole of immortality. Let's remove the immortality thing, right? Let's reincarnation and so on. And a lot of the enemies, almost all of them, I feel, most of them are like an undead, right? Undying. There's a kind of curse or something that has made them be alive for a very long time, right? You kind of like curse, which are kind of like horrible, not really dead. Yeah, I mean, the game's storyline is a lot about that, right? So if you don't experience the actual hardship of the battles, and literally the game pretty much says that each death you've had is actually real. Like, it's real in the storyline. It's like a death, and then you reload your save file and you play. No. In the game, in Sekiro, you actually do die. That's where you lose your money and so on. And you go back to your previous point, right? So it actually is more like, you actually did die, but you can't die because you got resurrected. All the people that are dying for you, right? So it's incredibly ingrained in the storyline that you actually are dying a lot. And I wish the game would have a moment where there's a moment in the storyline where someone says, you have died so many times for my sake. And I really wish it would be like, you have died this many times. I would say. Be like my washing machine. It's really, really horrible because it doesn't make any sense. Right? The washing machine, you just use the dishes, you wash your clothes, whatever. Yes, you just clean something. This is like you're supposed to play the game and experience the whole of it. You don't have to, of course. So a third point I want to make here, though, maybe if someone's listening here, they're probably Sekiro fans, so I'll be like, Sekiro's bad. And here's my own rebundal. No, but for example, I have one of my best friends that plays Sekiro. And he's still stuck on Chain Ogre, obviously a noob. I laugh at him every day, no, but he's been there for a few hours. And he told me 2 years ago He was like, you know what, I actually kind of regret buying the game. It's just too hard for me. I'm not really enjoying it. It's you know, it's too difficult. Yeah, you know that jargon, right? And I was telling him, use a fireman, oil him, fire him. I can tell him tips, right? And my general sentiment there is that he is right in his perspective, right? But he's not saying that I want my money back because the game is too hard, right? He's saying that I don't like this experience. I don't like this artwork, right? That's what he's saying, right? It's like if he bought a movie, he watched the movie, it's like, actually, I didn't like the whole, you know, twist reveal thing. It didn't make sense to me. So I actually think that was a bad movie. And then he might be saying, who recommended this movie to me? Like this guy, our other friend recommended a movie with angry team, that that's a waste of money, why do you tell me, so on, right? Yeah. That would be one thing, right? But that's complaining about the art, right? You're complaining about the actual game, what the game is, right? And you're saying that it's not for me, right? And of course, some things, sometimes stuff is just really bad, right? Sekiro, I don't think it's really bad at all, but I mean, like, it's obviously someone is allowed to dislike Sekiro and say, I don't like Sekiro, it's not hard, it's not for me, right? If someone says that, absolutely fine. You don't have to like the game, I don't think so for a second. But that kind of argument is logical and it makes sense, right? Because you're speaking about from what actually is in the game and saying that, you know what, I don't like what's in the game, yeah. I think that's pretty fair, right? But he doesn't say, you know, oh, the game wasn't what I promised. And that, I think, also is so funny with the whole Sekiro thing, and in this attitude of too hard, too easy thing, as an art thing, right? And not talking about the whole easy mode, accessibility, because I get that, right? I work with UX design, so I get that stuff, right? I'm blind on my left eye. I got stabbed here 10 years ago, 12 years ago, in my left eye. I'm pretty much blind here. And so I get the whole, like, you know, having some disability and so on, right? My knee pretty much knocked out. So yeah, people get that. I'm old enough to have some injuries. I get that. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that if I lost my left arm, right, I wouldn't want people to say stop producing hard games because I can't play them anymore. I'm like, well, it's really bad for me, but you know, I'm gonna let you guys still have fun with your games. But whatever, I digress. My point generally is that complaining about the actual art makes sense. Saying that, you know what, this boss is too easy in my opinion. That doesn't fit the art which I felt here. That is like, that I think is a valid and, you know, subjectively, but I would say that, for example, again, long arm graph guys, those Voldo guys, I think they are not good designed. They're way too easy. I got disappointed when I got to that boss, so spoiler here, but yeah, that boss disappointed me. Because I was like, man, it's the easiest boss in the game. He's much easier than any other boss in the game. And he's like 10 hours plus later than, you know, into the game. So yeah, that disappointed me. That, for me, is like not good art. As I can have a painting at the wall and say, you know what, I know this painting is for a lot of money, but I don't like the color scheme here. I can still say that, right? It doesn't mean I'm right or wrong, but I can complain on the actual art. But I'm not saying that, like, you know what, you change Spider-Man to black instead. Then I would buy the painting. Give me the silver Spider-Man, then I buy it, yeah. Well, it wouldn't be said in Spider-Man's case, I guess, because there is a black suit as opposed to a bad example. But you know what I mean, right? You're complaining about the actual art in a sense of saying that, you know, maybe it should be this and so on. I think that's fair. But it's not fair to want to force change the art, especially not we're talking about comparing it again, why it's so stupid, and why I really got livid when I read those commentary, and I've seen similar as them as well, right? Because it's just so wrong, right? They don't talk about how the game is not working and so on. It's like, if the game is bugged, right, and would crash all the time, but luckily, in my opinion, or at least in my experience, the game has almost zero bugs except the camera. That's the only thing I would say in the game is technically an issue in the game. Everything else was like perfect. So I would say like, well, you're not complaining about that. So you can't compare that and say that, you know, I want, yeah, doesn't make any goddamn sense. Go back to this comment again, right? It's like, you know, oh, it demonstrated the product. Yeah, it does, because it's the art of it. Someone has decided that it's gonna be like this. It's gonna be hard. A comparison, for example, would be when you play like a fighting game or a strategy game or something, where you have several characters and they're fighting each other and so on, right? Or like the races of factions, they have different kind of play styles. You have one character that's very slow and strong. You have the fast, quick character and so on, right? And it's a good game design of like a fighting game would be that you have characters that are fitting for several different kind of play styles. So you have people that like playing fast characters So they want to have that game experience, right? When I be aggressive, when I be in your face, and you have the other guys that like playing slow and control characters. They can shoot fireballs, and they kind of control the kind of the field around them. And those two people might still really love the same game, but they love the different aspects, right? Or they love kind of different kind of experience of playing those games, and that's a good game there because it can encapsulate several people, right? But that's not really what we're doing here with Sekiro. It's like we have this game experience, that's the intended experience. And then in a fighting game, if you would say that, well, I like playing really fast, aggressive characters, so every character should be like that. You know, yeah, that would be freaking stupid. You'd be like, oh, I want every character to be like Chun-Li, right? Yeah, I want all the characters to be really quick, like low health characters. That you're like, yeah, I want everyone to be like that. I want all the characters to be alteration of that. That would be perfect for me. Yeah, that just sounds really selfish if anything. It's like, yeah, and also the game would be bad then, probably even for you yourself, because you would also only face a variation of what you are playing, right? So you would never like face the different kind of other gameplay aspects of a fighting game. So you will just be stuck fighting the same thing over and over again. It's a pretty bad experience in the end. But you see, see what I mean there. And the last thing I want to mention then, with the whole Sekiro's art, right? So I think it is said more, I feel, games or art. So the last thing I want to think about, because I want a little overanalyze maybe a little bit of the commentary here, but my honest opinion though, these kind of people, right, they don't like the game, right? That's just the basic of it. They don't like the game. And it's not really like they're not gamers, they're not casual, they're not hardcore, they're not elitist, it's not about gatekeeping, nothing about that, right? Nothing about it at all. My point is just that if you have this kind of standpoint where you're like comparing a game to, you know, again, right, so kind of object is just a straight functionality thing with no tricks around it, you don't like games. That's my take on it. That's my bare, like, honest opinion about it. You might play games every now and then, but you clearly don't like games as, you know, gamers do. And that doesn't really mean that you're not a gamer, right? Because you can be a casual player and love games. You might just let the time right to play a lot of games, or you might actually really enjoy games generally, but you're bad at them, whatever. That doesn't really matter. That's not the point here. If you're new with stuff, that's not the point. This kind of like this kind of, you know, perspective of like games are used like theirs to perfectly fit my needs and so on. It's a really weird you know, view of games. Exactly again, right? If I tell every movie has to be exactly like I want it to be. Oh, I like movies that are about romance. So I want those to be a love interest. Every movie has to have a love interest. Every movie has to have two characters having, you know, at least like on screen that stuff. Genders doesn't matter, race doesn't matter. It could be aliens, but it has to happen. That's my demand, or else the movie is bad, right? That's kind of like, well, in your opinion, it's bad, I suppose. But it's a little bit, yeah. If you want to force it on every movie, it's kind of weird. And that's kind of how I feel this argument is, right? It's like, you don't like this game, come on. And I find it funny too, because when funny, but yeah, I guess when I say funny, I actually means being dishonest, right? Because people are saying this stuff, and I do feel I want to go. I don't want to talk about it because I don't bother with that stuff. I don't bother. But it's clearly for me, at least, it comes off as a political thing more in the end. Honestly, it's like, well, here I can point at these people that I don't like because you don't understand people you don't like. I would say generally, you don't understand people that like Sekiro probably more than actually disliking them for real. So it's an empty hatred for that matter too, which makes it even worse. But generally, I think it's a situation people are, here I can come and like, you know, stab at them because the whole mentality, and here's my kind of question why I say this. The whole mentality these people have, where they say like, oh, I really like Sekiro. I love this, like the art of it, and they mean art, right? You know, like you know the painting, yeah, the white and crass, yeah. I like the art of it, but the gameplay is really bad because it's so hard, it's so punishing. I don't like grinding. I don't like, you know, I don't like grinding. I don't like learning boss patterns. I don't like trial and error, test different items. I don't like having to, you know, not be handheld and discover stuff and so on. I don't like this and so on. That's usually how they're presented, right? Oh, I love Sekiro, but I don't like this. It's like, you don't like Sekiro? Give me a freaking break, man. If you have a list of like, these are the reasons I'm not a Sekiro, but I still love the game though. No, you don't. You just had a list of why you don't love the game, right? It's not, you're allowed to hate the game. I don't care about it. You're allowed to hate the game, but what you're doing then is you're having a list this actually is complaining about the art, right? Because the game experience of having to find, for example, the game doesn't help you at all finding stuff, right? It has some notes and memos and so on. You have to figure out how to go and so on, right? That's a part of the art. It's part of the experience. So if you complain about that stuff, you're complaining about the art, right? Which is fine. But tell me then, or be honest about that you don't like the actual game product, because this is all part of the art of a game, right? So yeah, it's ridiculous because they usually have that kind of attitude, right? I feel, especially people here that are complaining about the general essence of the game, right, and so on, but just ignore the whole art aspect of it, because that's clearly a part of the game. And you can kind of feel how fake it is, right? Because if someone has to just tell you all the time, oh, I love the game, this is why I love the game, but they don't really give good examples of it, or they kind of just say some kind of weird, yeah, I don't go into much detail, but that would be my last guess here, though. When someone has this kind of attitude, it's two reasons, I think. One reason is just like, you don't even like the game from the beginning with. You just pretend to like it, because you want to, politically, you want to come in here and stab at this kind of agenda, right? Because you don't because you think you dislike, because really, so whatever, yeah. You get what I mean? And the other thing is that you, I don't know. It's like you don't really like, you don't really like games in general, yeah. I mean, it's two different things. One of them, they don't like games at all, and they're more like political, yeah. Don't like the opposite side, right? But the other thing is more like they don't even like games. It's like you're pretending to like games, and you're pretending really bad too. Because if you complain about this stuff, or if you compare the game to that stuff, you don't like the game. And it's one thing though to say that, I don't like grinding games, I don't like role-playing games that are level up and so on. I don't like that things. I don't like having to go and farm items and so on. Yeah, absolutely fine. I like it. I grew up with that. I like that in games. And also people hate that. And that's completely fine. Play some more genre. You probably shouldn't play classic role-playing games because they're very heavily on grinding. Especially Japanese role-playing games like the Nipponichi, the Skya games and so on. Phantom Braves, they are extremely grindy. They go for like 200 plus hours. They're absurdly grindy. So if you don't like grinding, don't buy those games, right? I think the same Sekiro here. Sekiro, again, work of art, right? And if you like, and the art of Sekiro is hardship, the challenge, the experience. For example, yesterday, I finally beat arguably the hardest boss in the game. I don't want to spoil it, but it's a different spoiler thing. But you need the second bell. I would say that. Yeah, you need the second time travel thing. I would say that thing. Minor spoiler. But I will leave it at that. When I finally beat that boss, the last boss in there, the last boss in there, the feeling, right? You're like, whoa! Yeah, that feeling you get when you beat the thing is amazing, right? And that is the game intended experience. That's the art of this kind of games, because you feel such a satisfaction, such an epic win when you finally do it, right? And some other times, for example, when you beat this boss, right, and then the boss appears again, right? A second version of it, it's not the second row. And you beat it right away, yeah. And you screen there, you just kill it, and you're gone. That's also good because, yeah, I know you. I know how you work. It's kind of that, yeah, because you have mastered that kind of boss from the previous attempt, right? So now you face him again in another area, but you're like, yeah, like that feels great too, because I'm the best, I'm the king now. Or like when you solo kill, perfect kill a boss, like a perfect kill. My first perfect kill was on the music singer, yeah. That was like, I was like, oh my, like, did it, perfect code, yeah. And so on, right? That is the experience, that is the artwork of Sekiro. And if you like that, you like the game, right? But you need the hardship, you need the grinding, so that is part of that game. That's part of the art is the game. It's not so stupid saying it because it's so obvious, but it's so obvious. But if you don't like that, if you don't like the grinding, or maybe not just the grinding, but if you don't like the whole, not grinding as grinding like level points, but XP points, but grinding as fighting the boss over and over again, being on the boss for 2 hours, like perfectly learning this boss, so you can like perfect kill him eventually when you finally get, oh my god, that's tough. Like when I did that boss yesterday, the first phase, I did it without any health. I was like, bam, yeah, perfect the first phase, right? Second phase, harder, but you see what I mean, yeah. It's like when you get that feeling, that is the art of the game, right? And the art of the game is everything from the game experience, how it looks, how it's hard, how it sounds, how how it flows, right? Everything and so on, right? So it's an obvious thing for me. Oh, I think so. I as a kid, as a 5-6-year-old, I always seen game as equal to movies or whatever, or also better. But you see what I mean? But in the art perspective, like, yeah, it's an art, of course. It feels awful, but generally, yeah. If people complain about that, they don't like the game. It's as simple as that, I think, in the end, though. But also, you don't respect games, and it's very insulting, right? Because you compare it to, again, like a microphone. Oh, I bought this microphone, it can't capture my voice. Yeah, you return it then. I bought this game, I don't like the storyline in the game. Okay, maybe you shouldn't buy the game. Or maybe you still like the game because the gameplay is fantastic, but the story is horrible. Like, so, I won't say game. there are many games, right? But especially, I think that's a big issue in gaming in many games where the storyline is just really, really bad, but the actual gameplay is fantastic. So you kind of like whatever I played anyway, yeah. So that's a typical thing, right? But anyway, that's it for me about the art of it, right? The art is the experience of the game, all things together, right? And it's absolutely fine complaining about the art. I think it's people. If anything, I think people should do it more, right? Because I think Sekiro is a great game, but I think it has issues. Some technical issues I'll talk about here, and also some art issues. Like I mentioned, for example, I don't like the design of, for example, the graph man. I think that's a bad design enemy. I think Yobu is also too easy, also bad design enemy in my opinion. I'm sounding very harsh now, but I mean like there are some enemies in the game I think are amazingly designed, and some enemies I feel like yeah okay it's not as badass, you know. It's still relative, right? And of course, it's a budget reason. You can't make every boss be equally badass because of it takes more time and so on. Of course, I understand that. So different things, but if you like to play on that, I think that's absolutely good, and I think that more people should do that. I think more people should actually be honest about the stuff, because if I was for Sekiro, which would be awesome, but if I was Sekiro, I would want to hear those comments the most. Reasonable comments saying that maybe this boss actually was too hard, not because the game is too hard, but this boss, when you get to that boss, you lack these items, and if you do the other route instead, which of course is your, how you play around in the game world, then the boss is really easy instead. So either the boss is too hard or too easy, there's no middle ground, there's no ground when the boss feels just as a good pace for you. Either you have to like really, really master that boss, or you can go around, get this counter item, go back again, and just easily kill it, and it has like no. So what I mean, it's like there's no like good feel where it's just it's pretty hard. It's either impossible or it's like really easy mode. And I'm not saying that is a common thing in Sekiro. I think it's like one boss to that at all. So it's like great. I love it, but I mean like just to be fair here, I think it's like one guy kind of like that, and so on, right? I mean, if I was developing Sekiro, I want to hear that stuff. That is interesting for me as a game developer to learn. I see, yeah, that might be true. Maybe that boss actually should be maybe a little easier, but not as weak to his counter mechanic, right? So to speak. Maybe that could be kind of like a better middle ground for a better game experience, for example, right? Because the game isn't perfect. The game is very, very good, but it's not perfect, right? So I think that, at least I would say so, would be probably great feedback for them, and so on, right? And if people did comments and talked about Sekiro's difficulty, and it was more like that, I would absolutely be favor of that. But when it is like dishonest respect of like, games should be like buying a washing machine or something. Like, no, it shouldn't. That is crazy. Or like, games should just fit my taste. I like the movies that no one ever dies, and there's no one ever sad moment. The Bambi thing, that should never happen. It's like, well, then we're gonna have a very few movies, right? If every movie has to have a happy ending, we're gonna have pretty much no horror movies. So right there. Then you will eliminate a lot of genres of movies, right? Gaming, all games, one of the point, right, is this game is hard, right? If every game is equally easy, then all games are the same thing and it's boring. It's so obvious. But yeah, that's it for me. Press the subscribe button, press the like button and so on, right? And if you want me, because I'm interested in doing a much more empathic look on why the game is too hard, because there are some issues. I haven't even gone into too much here, right? But I think mainly it's the camaraderie. That's why I don't want to have an easy mode, for honest sake, not for the warting, but for honest sake. And that's an empathic and sympathetic, especially in empathy, I feel lack from the other perspective. I can talk about that if people are interested. Otherwise, for example, I would say one thing which I actually do feel bad with Sekiro, which I wish people would say more with disability, is, for example, how the camera is kind of weird and so on, kind of funky. The game could have like a more, streamlined tutorial and so on, or maybe not, depending on the space you want. I'm not saying the game is at the front here, I don't think the game is for the all. I'm just saying that if someone complains and say, you know what, the game is not, could have the exact same boss battles and everything, exact same difficulty on all the enemies, but you can have like a a more extended tutorial stage where you learn more properly how everything works and so on. Like, I don't think that would be a bad thing, right? I don't think that would be a bad thing. That the game could have. That would make it more accessible for people that are kind of confused about deflecting and parrying and so on. I wouldn't mind that. The game might let you have like a testing ground. Like Devil May Cry has that, where you can test abilities before you buy them. I know that it removes the experience of the game, so I don't think you should have it actually, because it wouldn't be like a From Software Souls game then. That's the point, right? The game is supposed to be, oh, you bought the wrong item? Sorry, it's your mistake. Yeah, so I get that. So, but I think on those aspects, it's kind of like maybe not letting you test stuff, but at least have a longer tutorial that will just teach you the basic of the game if you want to. So maybe you can skip it if you want to. Except for that, I think it are fair criticism of the hardship of the game. Absolutely. So I can do a video about that if people are interested. Because there are a couple of UX stuff, and I feel more like in a user-friendly kind of that way, which is like it's a difference between having a hard game and a game that lacks user-friendliness, right? For example, in my own latest game, we have too many keyword mechanics for no reason. Stuff that people have to just learn, like what a turn is in a game. That's a keyword in our game, and that just confuses you because then you have the word like stun. Obviously, stun is you can't move, you can't say it, and you also have the word return. So if you hover over this character, you get two keywords, and they're represented equally important to you. But obviously, a turn in a way is more important because that's a whole game rules. But the stun is the specific thing for this unit, and it's like this unit stuns enemies for 2 turns, right? And it's like the gamer probably should, the player, gamer, whatever you call it, player, user should know what a turn is by the basic rules tutorial of the game, or just any other game, right? So for example, there in my own game, I hate it in my game. I still buy it. That is not good user friendliness. It just makes the new player confused. Why do you have this thing here? And people ask me, can I get a mode where I can turn off all like the easy explanation, because you just hover up my screen and just make it harder for me to understand what's happening. I want to have like the emphasis on the important debuffs so on, and stuff like that, right? So for example, yeah, I know a lot about that stuff, the bad stuff and the good stuff. I have a lot of experience with that. So for example, I can talk about that in Sekiro if you want, but I think Sekiro has that kind of usability issues, right? In that sense, not saying there's many of them, but I think those are fair to say that the game might be hindering people. So anyway, if people are interested, tell me, come below, right, for the art thing. But generally, this video is about the art, right? And I feel, yes, I feel the dumbest, obviously the dumbest, most idiotic thing to complain about Sekiro, in my opinion, is then by far, no, it has to be like my washing machine. I bought this thing, it has to fulfill my demand. Like, no, it hasn't, because you bought a book, a movie, or something like that. You wouldn't say, I want my money back because this movie wasn't as funny, right? Like, that is just stupid. The most dumbest way to argue against Sekiro is that, in that aspect. Because that's just telling me that you don't like games, right? It's telling me that you see games as a kind of commodity, like buying, I don't know, yeah. And also, at least if people argue it's a katana, that's both an art and a functionality. It can be used defensively, but also it's beautiful to look at. So it has like 2 different layers there, right? Even in that case, you can't complain about. You can complain about, well, it doesn't work. It's not sharp enough, yeah, or it breaks too easy. That's reasonable. But if you say, no, the art here, it depends. If you order someone, say, I want the red koi art, whatever, and you don't get that, yeah, that's fine. It's different, right? But if you buy something, I'm buying a katana, give me a random art on it, right? Just do something with it, yeah. Just make it be sharp, yeah, and then don't tell how it looks. And then it's like, it's kind of ugly. You told me to be sharp. It's like, different between functionality and aesthetics and so on. Anyway, hope you liked the video. See you guys in my next video, hopefully.